I got into acupuncture because I wanted to be a doctor for a long time in high school, and then I was pre-med in undergrad, and so I was so impressed. And she got the use of her left hand back. And so that really made a huge difference in her quality of life, of course, right? Because she could continue to live by herself. It's so helpful to remind people that with your marketing, you can either pay with your cash or with your time and your effort. Everyone thinks about marketing as relationship building and trust building. And I think it just removes a lot of pressure.
Do you struggle with the marketing side of being an acupuncturist, or even as a student, you haven't even thought about it yet? Believe you me, it is going to be needed. Well, today, my guest is Michelle Grazek. Now, Michelle Grazek is online a lot. If you haven't seen her, where have you been? Because she's been around for 10 years teaching future acupuncturists and acupuncturists how to market the practice so they can reach more patients and in turn make a huge difference and an impact in many, many people's lives. So Michelle has agreed to come today on the podcast, and wow, she is sharing so many gems. We talked about which platform is best to be on when you come to social media marketing. We talked about Facebook groups. We talk about marketing in your community as well, which is so key to growing a successful practice. There are so many gems in this. And not only that, but she's offering 2 seats to her scholarship, the Acupuncture Marketing School scholarship, this week only. So you can apply. The show notes have the links for you. Don't worry about it. And we talk about what does that mean exactly and what you're going to learn in this amazing course she has built over the years with all her knowledge. So I can't wait for you to listen to Michelle and all her gems. Let's go. Welcome, Michelle Grassic to the AcuPro show. We have known each other for many years because we haven't met in real person. We met online and we kind of connected and started exchanging ideas. And then it's been years now. And so you do have a podcast, and we're going to talk about that because if you guys don't know Michelle's podcast, you need to check it out. And we'll have the links in the show notes. But you have a podcast, so you're much more comfortable in this environment than I am because I'm still learning this whole thing. But I'm so glad and thankful and grateful you came on. So welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. I am so honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm thankful you're here because I know this conversation is going to be so needed for all the practitioners and students that are eventually going to practice to listen to. Michelle is a practitioner and acupuncturist in New York State, and she's been practicing over 14 years, so she's been around for a while. Now, what Michelle is passionate about is to really help simplify marketing for us acupuncturists so we don't feel intimidated because we've never learned that in school, because we've never had business class in school. I never did, and I know many TCM college don't teach business, which is such a mistake. So Michelle is here today to share with us her amazing knowledge when it comes to marketing for us so we can grow our practice and make an impact with more and more and more patients. We can't reach patients if they don't come through the door. We want to help people, but if nobody comes, we're not going to help anybody. So Michelle has helped over 3,500 acupuncturists really truly understanding marketing and utilizing to grow the practice. So she has a lot of expertise in this. She's been teaching marketing to future and practitioners for over 10 years. So she's been around the block a little bit, and she's seen the changes as well, including social media and everything that encompasses marketing, right? So she's been on many podcasts, but she also has a podcast called the Acupuncture Marketing School podcast, which has amazing guests that come and share such great tips and gems that you have to check out that podcast as well. I would love to know, first, how did you become an acupuncturist? And second, how did you become interested in marketing to help us acupuncturists?
Sure. So before I dive in, I'll say that you are on the Acupuncture Marketing School podcast, and that's one of my favorite episodes. So I hope everyone will listen to that one because you shared so much wisdom about your thoughts on marketing and how people can do it well and feel good about it. So I got into acupuncture because I wanted to be a doctor for a long time in high school, and then I was pre-med in undergrad. And all of my classmates were preparing to take the MCATs. They were studying. And I kept asking myself, do I really want to study for this exam? And I really did not want to. And I also wasn't sure that I wanted to spend every day of my professional life in a very white little box, like a very clinical space prescribing medication. But I was torn because that had been my path for quite a few years. And where I grew up is near Seneca Falls, New York, and there was a very small acupuncture school that when I was in high school, it had just opened. And so my class went there on like a field trip. So that was my exposure to acupuncture. And I just had this thought in the back of my mind that maybe I really wanted to try this acupuncture thing instead of pursuing med school. And while I was trying to make the decision, my grandmother had a mild stroke. And she was just having a little bit of trouble using her left hand, but she was really very lucky. She didn't have a lot of other symptoms. And my aunt brought her for 6 scalp acupuncture sessions. And no one in my family was really into acupuncture at that point. So I was so impressed. And she got the use of her left hand back. And so that really made a huge difference in her quality of life, of course, right? Because she could continue to live by herself. Like she could get dressed by herself and make her food. And pretty much after that, I was like, forget med school. I'm just so not interested. I need to learn more about this holistic medicine where needles in the scalp helped my grandmother's arm. Tell me everything.
And isn't it interesting how most of us have seen the effect of acupuncture either on ourselves or on somebody that we love. Mm-hmm. And it just created that light bulb moment where you're like, oh, this is so cool. I want to learn this. And so I can help people that have been affected with stroke, because at the time you think of stroke because that's what you've seen, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, then the world opens to many more other disorders. Your grandmother benefited from the acupuncture because the ripple effect is you benefited from going back to school, learning this medicine. And the ripple effect is everybody benefits from the knowledge you have, your patients, and the fact that you went into marketing and helping all the practitioners. So tell me how you got passionate about marketing.
When I opened my first practice, so that was in 2010, I did a Groupon. So I had no marketing experience and I didn't have any patients. And I was also practicing about an hour from where I lived. So it was quite a drive, but I had no community. So I had no patients in that area. So I did a Groupon, which I don't really recommend. One of the people who purchased a Groupon was this woman named Deb. And she has since given me permission to share all of this. I mean, because she was my patient, but we've been friends for 14 years now. And so she finishes up her Groupon. We were doing cosmetic acupuncture. And we get to the end of her last session and she says, you know, I really love this cosmetic acupuncture stuff and I'd like to continue, but I don't want to pay you. And I was like, I don't really know where we go from here. Like, what could she be saying? And it turned out that what she wanted to do was a trade. She said, you need help with marketing. And I said, yup, I sure do. So she is an artist, and at the time she was a physician's recruiter for hospitals, but she had been in marketing for about a decade. And she just is this effervescent personality. So she convinced me to do this trade for cosmetic acupuncture and marketing expertise. She basically taught me marketing for 3 years. We did this trade until I ended up moving. I left that city and closed that practice to go somewhere else. It was sort of like a revelation because she really taught me to trust my instincts with marketing, that it's safe to experiment with your marketing and be creative, and that you can involve your community in your marketing. It just was such a fun experience, which really is the opposite of what most acupuncturists get from marketing. Like they've never had a Deb who just brings so much enthusiasm. Nobody else in our industry, or very few people, have been so lucky to have a marketing mentor just dropped in their lap and who gave them this totally fresh perspective. And so that is why I started writing a blog about acupuncture marketing 10 years ago, which was wild. And then eventually developed my online classes and then later on developed my podcast. But it really started with Deb and her her boldness and her enthusiasm.
I love that because when I came out of school, I thought I can help the world. I have all this TCM knowledge. However, I didn't know I needed to understand marketing or business in order to do so, right?
Yeah.
And I remember I went to shadow an acupuncturist in our area for a few weeks. And one time we were talking and he said, 50% of your success of your practice is going to come from your knowledge of TCM. 50% is going to be your knowledge in business. And I remember thinking, no, he doesn't understand anything. All I need is TCM.
It's like, how annoying when people say that. Like, that can't be right.
That can't be right, because otherwise they would have taught me this in school. Like, how can they not do this, right? And just like you, I had no patience. And within a few weeks, I realized, oh my gosh, that practitioner was so right.
Yeah.
Of course. And I did the barter thing like you did with marketing. I bartered for treatment. I found someone that loved acupuncture that was an RMT or massage therapist, and she sent patients to me. And each patient she sent, I gave her a free session. So she really, truly helped me at the beginning as well. So when you finish school, you have no money to pay for things. At the beginning, it's very difficult. Bartering always worked. I bartered for someone to make my website. I bartered a lot. I give you a treatment, you make my website. Great, this works, right? Like, go and find people that you can exchange with, because that works really well.
I have also traded for professional photos of my office and like headshots. I still do a trade for laundry services to this day. It's a beautiful thing. I never wash those linens. I'm like, yeah, I would rather give you cosmetic acupuncture than wash piles and piles of linens.
I really appreciate you sharing that story. I think stories always illustrate such great points. And so my first question, because I know a lot of people that are listening are either students or practitioners, and one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, what are the common marketing challenges that new practitioners or even practitioners that have been there for a while and are still struggling to build a successful practice face, and how can they overcome them?
So I think the first thing that comes to my mind is this fear of being visible. I think is natural to a certain extent, and it just takes practice to realize that it's safe to be visible. But I think it's a little bit worse in the digital age than it ever has been before, because we're all really afraid of showing up on the internet and saying something with confidence. We're just convinced that the trolls are going to pop up, or that people in our community are going to say, who do they think they are to say something or to teach something with confidence? When the reality is that once you start doing it, you realize that the trolls are really few and far between. A lot of people are also introverts, and so that makes the visibility piece even more difficult. I'm also an introvert, so I understand that. So what I usually tell people is, if you're really afraid of being visible through your marketing, try to think about how you could get in front of your community in ways that do make you feel comfortable, right? So for some people, they're very uncomfortable being visible regularly on social media, but they're okay actually showing up in person for events, either for like volunteering and letting their community get to know them that way, or going to networking events, or maybe they're comfortable teaching in small groups, like at the library, teaching like 6 people about what is cosmetic acupuncture or whatever it might be. How can acupuncture help runners? So it's sort of like, be willing to experiment to figure out like what types of visibility feel good to you, or just really don't. I always say, you don't have to do marketing that you really don't like. There's a million ways for your community to get to know you and to realize that your practice exists. It's kind of like the intersection of what works well for your strengths and your personality that also gets patients through your door, right? It works for your unique patients in your unique community. And that just takes a little trial and error. Trying and failing is very normal in marketing. Sometimes this is not going to work that well, and that's okay. I'll just take that data and then I'll course correct, and I'll either do something different next time or I'll tweak it a little. But knowing ahead of time that that's normal takes a lot of pressure off.
I appreciate you sharing this. First of all, you are an introvert and I am an introvert. And most people think, oh no, look at her like online doing her things and videos. Of course she's extroverted. No, I'm not. Like if I'm in a big group of people, I won't be talking. I'm really uncomfortable, right? And another thing too, when you said, show up the way that makes you feel like it really resonate with who you are at the core, right? Don't be somebody else, be who you are. We all have a gift. And I remember when I first started online, I started by creating more images because I didn't want to put myself out there because I did not want people to see my face. I'm like, I don't have straight teeth. I'm not pretty. I have a French accent. Nobody's going to listen to me. What are my peers are going to say? What are people going to think? Who am I to be there talking about TCM and teaching TCM? All those things came in my head. And then I was like, okay, I got to challenge myself and go on video. And the first video was horrible. I looked like a robot. I look at the camera and my arms didn't move. Like the way I talk was like super slow. But with time and more confidence and more practice, kind of like needling. When you first start to needle, it takes you so long to needle a patient and you're so slow because it's practice. Eventually, you're much faster in finding the point, finding the chi, doing all this in a way that makes it more smooth for you. Well, it's the same with being online. So I really appreciate you sharing this. Another thing that I think is important is we all have a gift and sometimes we don't see it. So using that unique gift to promote our services in any way possible, which could be online or offline. Online is great because it allows you to market who you are, your services, and what you can do to support and help people and change their lives with your craft because it's free. I was in the fitness industry for many years. If I want people to know I'm a personal trainer, I need to spend money. I need to advertise somewhere because people don't know anything about me. Now you have this free world that you can literally advertise for free, which is called social media, even though it can be intimidating, scary, and difficult at first. Think about it. When you start a practice like the barter and the trade, because you don't have that much money, having social media or free advertising is your possibility. So that's a possibility that people should utilize. However, yes, it is scary. Yes, what are people going to think? There's all these things that goes in your head that needs to go out because the most important thing is you're there to educate the world about the amazing benefits of Chinese medicine so we can change people's life one patient at a time. That's it.
It's so helpful to remind people that with your marketing, you can either pay with your cash or with your time and your effort, right? And in the beginning, when you don't have much cash, you really want all those free methods, all of the kind of DIY marketing that you are hacking together yourself. All of that is amazing. And it does work. It just takes time, right? You kind of hit a tipping point at a certain point in your practice where you have enough patients that you want more, but you are so busy treating them that you don't have as much time to do all of the content creation, for example, or maybe go to all the networking meetings. But instead, you might have extra money so that you can pay for advertising, right? So it's just, where are you at in your practice? I have some marketing clients where it just annoys them. The idea of paying money for ads really annoys them. And that's fine, right? Like, I love free and low cost marketing. I think that is for me, that's my jam. That's the way to go. If you never want to pay for ads, that's totally fine. For social media, for example, it's like you're putting your time and effort in, you're figuring out how it works and what works for you. You will get better with time. So that also is going to be less time consuming as you become more expert in content creation, for example. There was a time when, recording a video for Instagram, putting captions on it and editing it would take me like 55 minutes for a 2-minute video, right? And now, this is 10 years later, right? I just turn the camera on. I actually still have to record like 4 or 5 times. So it definitely gets better. It gets better with practice.
And I love that you share that because I think people see you online, they see me online, and they're going, oh, this person just started, did their thing. And then, 10 minutes later, the video was ready. I'm like, yes. I've been doing this as long as you have online. And I'm the same way. If I have a short reel that's going to be like a minute or less, I'm going to record 5, 6 times. And then I go, come on, like, how can I not? And, and it's so funny. I get nervous, so I don't pronounce things properly. And then I have to shake my tongue and breathe and then start again, right? So we all do this. If you think that we're not nervous and we just do one take, think again, because we just have to still do it years and years later. So I'm glad you share that, because I think people compare themselves with others and think that other people, it's easy for them. No, it still works. It still takes time. When people feel overwhelmed, but they're like, okay, I don't have that much money, so I'll start with social media. Which platform do you tell them is the best platform to start with?
There's a couple things that they could think about. One is, where is your audience and where do they spend the most time? Because typically TikTok is a little bit younger, Facebook is a little bit older, Instagram has a very specific vibe. And they also want to think about, where are they willing to actually show up and spend time? Because even if your audience is, for example, on Facebook, but you hate Facebook and you're never going to get on there and interact with people, Facebook's probably not a good choice. So I do think at the end of the day, if you are just going to pick one, maybe two social media platforms, all that matters is that you are committed to engaging with your audience and sharing content regularly, and you will have success with your marketing. The people who are right for you are going to find you. There's something like billions of people are on Facebook. Most of the world is on Facebook. For me, that makes it worth it. The effort on Facebook is worth it because most people are still on there. Again, depending on the age range. And the other reason I recommend people give Facebook a try, at least, is how easy it is for people to just click the link in your post and go directly where you want them to go. Versus Instagram, for example, if you have a reel, you always have to say in the caption, link in my bio, right? And of course, now on stories, it's easier. You can actually include a link. But when you think about it in your digital marketing, you really want to reduce the amount of effort that people have to take, and the less clicking around and searching that they have to do, the better, right? So fewer clicks is better. So Facebook is still sort of winning in that capacity in my mind, because you can have a Facebook post that talks about like this new research you found for knee pain. And then your call to action could be, are you struggling to manage your knee pain, or are you preparing to run a marathon and you want help with this? Click here to schedule now. And it's so easy for them to just click that button, instead of other platforms where they have to actually like go back to your profile and look for it. Make it as simple as possible. If you can get them to do what you want in one click instead of 3 clicks, choose the 1-click option. So I put that all out there as like things for people to consider when they are choosing their social media platform. I don't know that one is truly better than the others. It's a lot of different factors. What do they like? Where are they going to spend time? Where is their audience? And what do they feel is going to be efficient for them?
I love Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Those are my favorite. I love that you share the fact about making it easy for people, because it's so true that I've said on Instagram, link in my bio. And the comment is, where is your bio? And I'm thinking, okay, you started an Instagram account. You have an Instagram account. You have a bio yourself. You don't know where that is because you don't know. Maybe it's called a bio. Maybe you call it a profile. Maybe your English is not your first language like mine. Too many steps. So that makes it tough. When you have a link, it's like people can see because it's a different color. So we can click that. It looks different because it's the clickable link. So I love that you mentioned that. Yes, Facebook is easier for that, for sure. With Facebook, there's two things. You're right. The audience is a bit older compared to like obviously TikTok, but it's also the fact that Facebook has Facebook groups. And I found Facebook groups are really good to help people join groups in your area. This is what Facebook is really useful for, I think. It's like you said, the link, the Facebook group, the fact that it's mostly easy, and a lot of our patients can be found there unless you treat kids, which would be a different story. I do really enjoy Instagram. I do enjoy YouTube, but YouTube is a much longer game. It takes a much longer time to build a community there. So I think that building communities in Facebook and Instagram is easy. And another thing, when you said pick 1 or 2 platforms, what I like about Facebook and Instagram to save us time is we can schedule both platforms at the same time. You can do everything on your laptop, and then you don't have to double up what you're doing.
I also feel like Facebook groups are excellent if you have an event that you want to share. So I'm a member of all of the local business Facebook groups, and there's so many. I mean, of course, there's a Facebook group for everything, right? But I think I'm a member of probably 15 or 20 local Facebook groups, like everything in my county and then the surrounding counties and surrounding cities, so that when I am teaching a gua sha class or doing Acu Yoga, I just share the Facebook event page to that group, and then people will be like, what is this? Never heard of this before. Who are you? So I have seen this work really well before with my marketing clients, where they're in a local group and the questions could be like, does anyone have a dog groomer they recommend? Or I need to get my roof done. And if you just had your roof done and you had a great experience, you pop right in there and say that, so that when it comes to be your turn and you're like, oh, hey, it sounds like you need acupuncture, it's not salesy or spammy because you've been checking in with them like once a week for however long, right? Or even once every other week, but you're like a regular face. So I think the power of social media for networking is really, really undervalued, and Facebook groups are perfect for that.
You already gave so many tips. Give me another 1 or 2 tips that practitioners could utilize like today to get them a little bit closer to understanding what they could do to move the needle a little bit.
I keep going back to the idea of social media for networking. So my favorite way to use Instagram at this point is to make contact with other local small business owners. And my marketing clients are having really good experience with this because it becomes very natural, right? If you find someone in your community who you think is doing a great job, it could be a florist. You follow them and you just give them lots of love, right? And eventually it will feel like it's time for you to reach out. Like you'll know when you've interacted with them enough and you've been supporting them for a little bit, you can reach out to them and say, hey, I'm also a small business owner. I absolutely love what you're doing. And I'm just wondering, like, how can I support you and your community? You make it about what's in it for them. And it becomes this reciprocal thing where the truth is you have no idea how you could work together, but it could blossom into something really beautiful. And most of the really strong relationships, even in my own practice that I have with other small business owners locally, started on Instagram. And so just go on Instagram and look for local hashtags and start connecting with those people. Comment on their posts, like their posts, follow them. It's kind of like a longer term game, but those are the kind of relationships that support you for years in your business, right? Those are the people that, you know, when clinic is low, you can turn to them and be like, man, clinic is slow. Do you want to host an event together? And then the other thing I always tell people is if you're up for it, it's really nice to kind of walk your community and just introduce yourself to the other small business owners who are within walking distance of your practice. Now, for my introverts, this doesn't always work for us. It's something I did not like in the beginning. It took practice for me to be comfortable just showing up. An alternative to that is email those people. So what I recommend for my marketing clients, especially if they're brand new or they just moved to an area, or maybe they've been there a couple years, but they never formally introduced themselves to their neighbors, create a spreadsheet, go on Google Maps and pick a radius. If you're in a big city, it could be small, right? Like it could be just a couple of blocks, and list all of the local businesses in that area and then their contact info, and send them an email introducing yourself. And again, your focus in the email should really be on how you can support them, right? This isn't an email where we're just blatantly saying like, hey, I'm here. This is what I do. I take insurance. Send me referrals. You can introduce yourself that way, right? Like, my name's Michelle. I love cosmetic acupuncture. It's my specialty. And then just say, I'd love to know how I can support you and your community. How can I show up for you and your community, or the community that we share? And generally, other small business owners are so receptive of that. And even if they can't think of a way, like maybe the coffee shop is like, I love this idea. I have no idea how we could work together. The conversation doesn't have to stop there, right? You can continue to figure out what that might be. And even if the answer is, oh, we never worked together, they know you exist. And think about how many people the owner of the coffee shop talks to on a daily basis and how they know that you exist. This is sort of like a introvert-friendly way of getting in front of a lot of new people without draining all your energy. And I always say there's a million ways that you could get visible in your community. Just try something. If it doesn't work, it's fine. And generally, when I'm telling people to experiment, I'm asking them to do it with free. Experiment with all the free stuff. That's what I recommend. Trial and error is really, really your friend in marketing.
I started practicing on my own. When I first started practicing, eventually I built my own wellness center with a multidisciplinary clinic. So when we opened that, I really wanted everybody to know about it. So you had to come up with ideas. I wasn't going to spend money in advertising because I had just spent a lot of money building it. Yep. So that was enough for that, right? Yeah. So you're just like, okay, how can we become creative? Now we need to bring people in and we need to get those practitioners to be busy, all of them. We had a grand opening and it's exactly what I did. I went to the local coffee shop and I said, how much would you charge me if you could cater coffee and tea for that day? That would be really good and stuff. And he was like, it's for an opening? Oh no, I'll bring it to you for free. I was like, oh my God, like you said, everybody wants to help each other. And we had a lot of people donating prizes from other businesses that were really here to support us when we just had open. But that's the point. Communities support each other's business because people want to support small businesses. Yes. Everybody does because they make our community. And when we have a community of people that come together, in my community, someone started a group called Shop Local. And there was 151 businesses part of this. It wasn't my idea, but I was in it, participating, thinking, what a great idea. And we had Shop Local banners and they were everywhere and people wanted to support their community. Like you said, just use your creation. How can acupuncturists change their mindset like mine was when I first started practicing and was not interested in knowing marketing? How can they change their mindset around marketing and feel like, okay, this is not a necessary evil. This is a fun part of my business that can really make the life of a patient, 2 patients, 10 patients, 20 patients better because now they know I can help and support them.
It's really helpful when, just like we've been talking about, when everyone thinks about marketing as relationship building and trust building. And I think it just removes a lot of pressure where we seem to think that for our marketing, we have to have like a sales pitch or we have to close the deal, like all of these very salesy phrases that everyone's like, ew, I feel gross just listening to you say those things. It's about building up enough contact with people in your community that they trust you enough to share their personal health information and to put needles in them. Some of that could be just patient education, right? Showing up over and over again and explaining the basics of acupuncture so that people hear it often enough that they're like, you know what? I think it really is time that I tried that. And I also feel like the experimentation piece with your marketing is so nice because it does give you permission to fail at things. I also think it's helpful to remember that you can learn marketing the same way that you learned acupuncture. Marketing is actually way easier than acupuncture, right? Like you can do successful marketing, or you could take like one class, whereas acupuncture is a master's or a doctorate degree and you're memorizing things in Chinese. Marketing is so much easier. If you can learn acupuncture, you can definitely be good at marketing. It just takes a little persistence and practice.
I'm all about making Chinese medicine easy, and you're all about making marketing simple. Yeah. So we totally understand each other because the simple and the easy is what all of us can relate to, and then we can build on it for sure. But so I know right now, you having your scholarship, which you do once a year. So can you share, we'll have the link below so you guys can apply for it, but can you share what that entails and what that looks like?
So every year we offer 2 free seats in my online program, which is called Acupuncture Marketing School. So we offer a free seat to a student and a free seat to a graduated or a practicing acupuncturist. If someone is no longer a student, basically they qualify for that. You don't have to have opened your practice yet. Acupuncture Marketing School is taking you through the marketing basics we should have learned in acupuncture school. and walking you through setting up a really strong foundation for those marketing basics in a very linear fashion, right? So we're going to go through what are the core concepts in marketing that make it more effective, different ways of thinking about marketing, who is your target audience, how do you speak to them, ideas for content creation and social media, email marketing, search engine optimization, but everything is really based on getting the core of your marketing really strong and clear for yourself so that all of the other marketing you create afterwards, all the social media, all the emails, etc., are effective and efficient for the kind of patients that you really want. And so the scholarship competition is, again, it's 2 free seats, one for a student and one for a practitioner. And I always wanted to offer a seat for a student because I think, in acupuncture school, we are often not asked to think about marketing until the very end. And then all of a sudden, it's like you're out on your own. You have to build this brand from scratch. So really if you're a student, even if you're in your first trimester, the sooner you can start thinking about your marketing, your business, your brand, what you want it to look like and feel like, and who you want to serve, the better. And it's okay if it changes. It might change 6 times before you graduate, but just get into the habit of thinking about it. And so that's why I think it's so important to offer a seat to a student so that they have that leg up by the time they actually graduate.
Thank you for doing this scholarship. I think that's so, so sweet of you. And that leads me to obviously the Acupuncture Marketing School. When does the course start then?
So it is a pre-recorded course, so it's available all the time, but next week it will be on sale. And I like to include some special bonuses during the sale week. I think it is just really important to make it available to as many people as possible, right? Like make it accessible. And so the links for the scholarship and how to apply will be in the show notes. The link will probably talk about creating a video as part of your scholarship application, but please know that if you keep scrolling, there are options. If you don't want to do a video or you can't, you can submit an audio, you can submit it as written text in an email. So we take all kinds of scholarship applications.
I'm so glad you came in today. You shared so many gems, so many things. I'm so happy you're doing what you're doing because it's so needed. So thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. It just really is an honor to be here with you. Everything you create is wonderful. Thank you.
You're so sweet. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I truly hope you benefited from this episode, and I would love for you to share it with a friend that may benefit from it as well. Follow the show, leave a review, and if you want more, go to my website, acuproacademy.com. I have tons of resources there with treatment protocols, case study, free courses, and so much more. And connect with me on all social media at AcuPro Academy. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, Pinterest, and LinkedIn and TikTok. And no matter what, keep rocking it using TCM.